Hello guys, Nigel here with you, Nigel's Modelling Bench. Welcome back to part 10 now of this build of the, it's not Nigel's Modelling Bench, is it? It's Lancaster Dambuster site, isn't it now? So basically, yeah, we've got the 1/72 scale Airfix Dambuster Lank here, which is an absolutely gorgeous kit. And now we're on part 10. If you haven't seen the others, go back and have a look. It's a build aimed at newbies. It's not aimed at beginners, it's aimed at newbies to, you know, how to take your modelling that one little step further. So we've got the airframe built up, as you can see. We've got the engines fitted. We've changed the build sequence. So we've got the intakes on and they're all smoothed out and everything's lovely. So they're all going to look good. Remember, we're building this as a fairly new aircraft. It's got some scratching on the floor, but that's about it. We're at the end of it. The outside of it is going to be pretty much unweathered, and I'm not going to be adding like loads of washes and stuff to it because, as you already know, I've already said, the panel lining on this is quite heavy and sort of, you know, not really to scale. I've just noticed it's got a bulge sort of coming out there of plastic or something. But yeah, we're not going to be weathering it and adding washes and stuff. It's going to be a fairly new aircraft because these aircraft at the end of the day were fairly new. And this one is AJT, which is ED825. And this one may not even have AJT on it. It may be brand new, sat there as per the photograph I've got in my other book. So we've got the engines on, and as you know, I've changed the build sequence around a bit. There's one thing I can't change, is what they're calling up next is the fitting of the undercarriage here. What's that on there? They're asking us to fit the undercarriage here because it's going in from the top, and I can't physically change it around. I've got the undercarriage here all painted up, more on that in a minute, but I can't physically change this around because this goes in through the top here and then goes into slots in that bulkhead like so. I cannot get it in afterwards. Okay, it's a shame. I'm loving the build sequence up to now, except for these intakes, which is a bit daft, but you know, that's easy to come around. But I'm not liking this because they're likely to get snapped off. But we are actually building up the whole undercarriage, which should be quite strong because it's all triangulated and everything. So basically that's got to go in the top, it can't go in the bottom. I did think about slicing down here and squeezing it together and then popping it back apart, which may be possible, but I thought that's a bit much. You know, it might be a bit much for you guys, so I thought I'll leave that. I've actually painted these in the correct colours. We've got an RAF grey green there on that bulkhead. We've got the aluminium colour here. We've got aluminium on the actual arms themselves. We've got chrome on the bottom. You can see that there's chrome on there. That's this one. This is the Molotov liquid chrome. It's fantastic stuff. It's really good, and that is just literally brushed on over the silver paint, and you can see it looks quite chrome-like. So that's good. They've got the black bit in there. The way Airfix tell you to paint them is actually incorrect. They're telling you to paint the bottoms in steel, and then you've got these bits here in black, and then up here is in black, and then this is all aluminium or steel, whatever. The bit in there 78 is green, that's correct, but this is all like painted with an aluminium paint, and that area of the shock absorbers is black, and that's it. I can show you here. Here is an actual undercarriage leg, and you can see there the only bit that's black is this bit here. Okay, so there's the shock absorber part. That's the bit that's going up and down, so that's chrome. The bottom is all black and all chipped and everything. Wheels are generally black. Very early Lancs had silver, but they're generally black. So and you can see here, there's another image there. You can see the actuating arms for the gear doors and everything. They're also silver, as you can see there. There's another one there. You can see it's all silver, black on the bottom, black there in the middle. Okay, so don't necessarily follow Airfix's instructions. They could be incorrect. So we've got to fit those in before we can fit these panels in the top. So if you remember, I've changed the build sequence about a bit. I haven't put any of the exhausts on or anything. I haven't put any of these air intakes on. I haven't got the flaps in there. It's so that we can check everything's all nice, get it all seams and lovely and everything before we start adding those bits that are going to get in the way. So what we need to do first of all is get this glued in here. So I am going to remove some paint from here so we get a nice strong joint. Now these have been primed in black. I didn't want to do it on camera because, you know, at the end of the day, you don't need to watch me airbrush everything, do you? So they've been they've been primed in black, and then they've been painted in LP72, which is mica silver, which is like a sort of aluminium colour. And then they've had the RAF grey green, which is my mixture, XF71, and a little bit of dark green in it, just to darken it up a touch, just to make it slightly darker. You'll see that it's darker than the interior green that we've got in there. You can see there the colour difference. It's darker. Okay, so there we go. So I'm also going to remove some paint from this area here where these slots are, just to help us get a nice strong joint. And then we can drop that down through there. You can see how it's going to fit. What I'm going to do is use the back of my knife to push them in. They don't seem to want to go in. There we go, that's just clipped in. Oh yeah, they fit in there beautifully. They are lovely. Very nice indeed. Now I'm tempted to not glue them yet, because they seem to have taken on an angle sitting back. I suppose we could always bend them forward. Yeah, they'll bend easily enough. Right, okay. So we will glue them. So we'll get some extra thin in there, not the quick setting. We want a nice strong joint. So we'll get a nice drop of extra thin into there. Then give them another nudge, just to make sure they're properly home. The glue acts as a kind of lubricant. Let me find something else to push them with. Let's use the back of one of these files here. Just want to push them in and make sure they're sat in there nice and solid. Okay, now if you want to, these tanks here, they should be red. Okay, so if you want to paint them, they should be like the sort of the hull red sort of colour. So I'm not going to bother. I may do afterwards, but I'm not doing it yet. I just want to make sure that's definitely gone in correctly into those positions. I'm not worried about scratching the paint because you're not going to see it. As you can see, you can only really see the back side of anything. You can't see the front. So there we go. I've got glue on my finger there, so I have to be careful what we're touching. Alright, so there we go. Obviously not going to put it down on that. So I'm going to get the other one glued in exactly the same, and then I'll come back and we'll get the rest of the undercarriage in. Alright, so they're both in now. While they're drying, I may actually go and just put a bit of red paint in there just because it looks good. So while they're going off, let's have a look at these elevators. If you remember, these are the border model 1/32 scale elevators, and as you can see, they're fabric, and they obviously have these strips on them that helps keep the fabric bond down onto the formers. So the Airfix kit comes with them as metal. So what we've basically done here is filled all the joints in with black super glue and sanded them all. And as you can see now, I've got them marked out with lines. So they've got lines on them, so we can see where the fabric tape's going to go. Now, to imitate the fabric tape, I've got some 10 thou plastic strip. Yes, I know it's too thick before you start shouting at me. I got some 10 thou plastic strip and cut it into very thin strips. Now, the problem here is getting the strips consistently thin. It's very difficult. So I've actually ordered some now. I've ordered some evergreen 10 thou by 20 thou strip. So it's going to be 10 thou thick, 20 thou wide. Then what we'll do is we'll take our strip and we'll lay it down like this on the actual, you see I've got the pencil lines on there so that it's nice and perpendicular to the leading edge. What we'll do is lay that down now, cement it, and then we'll bring the other side around, okay, just like so, and we'll get them lined up, and then we know we've got them parallel on both sides. And then once they're all dry, we can give them a nice thick coat of Mr. Surfacer or something, and then after that's gone good and hard, sand that back, and we should get this sort of, all we want is a representation of kind of a raised edge. And then I may well make a mould of them, because I have got 3 of these, so I may well make a mould of them for future reference. I don't know. Although I don't have any moulding equipment, I'll have to go and buy some more. Not equipment, the materials. So they're on hold for a little while, but it's not going to hold the build up at all. As you're watching this, I don't know when you're seeing this, but it's actually the 17th of February 2024 today, so as you can see, you're way behind watching, you know, as I'm filming. So looking in the instructions here, moving along to the undercarriage, we've now got to add these parts here. This part here is C18. Again, they're telling us to paint this silver, and the rest of it is black. That's incorrect. It's all aluminium, so don't be worried about that. Now these bits here could well be chrome, but I'm not so sure. So you could do them chrome if you want to or not. So as you can see, we've got those painted. They're done all aluminium. And then we've got these parts here, which are part C1. And they are also going to go on afterwards. So we can get those off. There we go. So they're good and ready to go back in their box. Every now and again I give these a clean, get the overspray off them, but for now that's fine. We'll grab that one there that fell off. So we've got our 4 arms there, we've got our arms there. So it's showing us in here that this is going to go into the back end of the bulkhead in the bottom here. It's showing you a recess. So we'll look down in here. It's going to be difficult to see because it's all black, but I think I can see a couple of recesses down in there. Get my little spotlight in there. Yes, they're right at the bottom, aren't they? Yes. I think I can see them right at the very bottom down in there. I wish I'd removed the paint from these before I put the wings together, because I can't see where they're going to go. But I'm sure they're right in the bottom. Let's grab some tweezers. We should be able to fill these in gauge in those holes. Okay, so they're just going to sit there like that. I'm going to go off camera and do this because I'm going to have to do it from a magnifier, because I cannot see what I'm doing because it's all black. And I cannot see anything down in there at all. Kind of wish I hadn't painted this, but then painting this all black with the silver legs in there would be quite difficult. So I'm going to do this off camera and then I'll come back and show you how it's done. I'd rather build it on camera. I'll do the next ones on camera, because what I'll do is I'll find the holes. I can see those holes where they're going to go. They are there. So I can see them. You can see I'm just scraping the paint out. There's like a recess. There's like a recess down there, but I can't see the bottom ones at all. So I'm going to get off camera and then I'll probably do one and then I'll do one on camera for you. See you in a minute. After a few swear words, that's all gone together. I decided to do this one off camera because I simply cannot see down in there because of all the black and everything. You can see that's gone in and you can see the glue's still soft because I can still move it around. So now we need to fit these parts in here, which are C1, I believe. Yeah, you can see I've done this one here. It's all nice and strong. So basically you can see down in here, I'm going to get my pointy stick and just scratch away some of that paint from down in there so we get a stronger joint. And then basically what's going to happen, I'm going to put some cement in there. In fact, have I cleaned these legs off? Yes, I have. Remove some paint from the end of there. And I'm also just going to remove some paint from the end of here, just to give the glue something to work with. And then I shall put some cement into these holes here, where the legs are going to sit. Just push that down a bit out of the way, and then what's going to happen is this leg's going to go in here and connect to the back of the main undercarriage leg there, and then this one will do the same into that hole there and then pick up on the back of there. Okay, just like that. Now I'm not worried about that lower leg because it doesn't really do anything, but this we want this to go together here so that these legs here slot into those unions in the back of the main gear there. Okay, so what I'm going to do is just, hopefully you can see what I'm doing. I need to put some pressure on that leg and on that one. I'm just going to get a tiny drop of my black thin CA. This is a tiny drop, and then puts about half a gallon on there. And just let that capillary in. And remove the excess, just like so. And just hold that until it kind of sets, and then while that's setting, we can get this piece in here, which you probably can't see because the wing's in the way. We can move that into position just to sit in those two little recesses, and then a drop of extra thin in each of those. I'm using extra thin where I can because it's always a stronger joint, but I'm relying on the flexibility of the Flexi CA. So hopefully get a nice strong joint. Now the downside of this, as I say all the time, the downside of the Flexi 5 CA is it doesn't dry instantly like most super glues do. But of course its main benefit is the fact that it doesn't dry instantly like most super glues do. So what I could do there actually is grab my activator and just touch that on there, and that will get it going. But obviously this is all quite fragile and spindly, and then once that's gone off we'll get some extra thin in there, and that will hopefully go and capillary around and get some weld action going on as well. I'm also going to put another drop of extra thin down in the base there, and another drop down in the base there. There we go. And there we are. So that's that. Right. Drop of extra thin on there, drop of extra thin on there, and then any areas that got missed, we should get a bit of weld action going on. That's going to be a crucial part of the undercarriage there, those joints, and I think they're going to break easily. But as long as we're not too rough with the aircraft, we should be okay. But we can actually stand it on its undercarriage now. It's absolutely fine. So what are we going to do next? Let's have a look. Okay, so we're all good now. What I really wish Airfix had done here is made this inner piece, this piece here. I wish they'd made that as kind of one part with the bulkhead, and then had these legs sort of going down into them. You know, they could have made this part here as part of this bulkhead, and then had these legs sort of slotting down in on slots or pins in holes or whatever, so you could have the undercarriage last. But now we've got this, you know, fairly flimsy undercarriage sat there. It's probably going to get damaged. It's not a good build sequence, but you know, it's the only criticism of the kit really, I think, so far. But we need to make sure those joints are good and strong, because we do not want them breaking. So I think what I might do, because you can't really see anything up there anyway, I think what I'm going to do is get some of my Flexi 5K CA and just run it in the sides to give it a bit of a buttress, just sort of a bit more surface area really, just to add a bit of strength into that area. Like so. There we go. We just mop up some of that excess There's no point really, because you can't see any. You can't see up there. You can't see the glue that I put in there. So there we are. Right. So I'll put that down very gently. This undercarriage, and then these wing pieces. I guess I could have done the outer wings before, couldn't I? These two here for the inboards are the same, and then obviously these two here are handed. So that one's going to go on that side by the look of it. Yep. And that is a very nice little fit. As we can see, it's going to need some sanding, it's going to need some blending, and that's why I left those exhausts off, because now I can go over the top with a sanding stick and blend it all in and not worry about damaging anything. That's why I've changed the build sequence in that area. And also you can see, I don't know if you can see it, but here it's sitting proud. Can you see that? It's sitting proud. It's it needs to be. It's a shame because it's got raised rivet detail on there, which I'm probably just going to sand off anyway, because it's going to look a bit odd just having raised rivet detail there and there's no rivet detail anywhere else. It's a bit silly really. But, so what I think I might do, I've noticed it's rocking. I don't know why. If I hold it down, it seems to stay there. I seem to have an issue here with it not going down fully there. So what is actually stopping it going down? I think there's something there perhaps. Milliput on my knife. Wrong one, right? It's this one. Yeah, there's something stopping it going down in that corner. I don't quite know what it is. It looks like there's a lump or something there, perhaps. Keep picking up the wrong one, you idiot. Yeah, as you can see now, we've got a gap here that's going to have to be filled and then scribed. But, something is stopping that going down, and I can't see for the life of me what it is. So I'm going to have a look off camera. I've got a feeling there's something here. It's maybe in this flange here. And I know that it's sitting a bit proud, so I can easily take some material off of there. It's very weird. It sort of clicks in and then pops back out again. Really don't like having that undercarriage in the way. It's crazy. Just take some plastic away from there, and we'll take some away from here as well. I'm sorry if you find this a bit boring, but there'll be a lot of people who really want to see this to see how they go about doing theirs, because these are such a. This area is always a problem on Lancasters. It's a nightmare, whatever size, whatever scale. It's always an issue. Right, that is much better. So what I've done is scrape some plastic away from there and remove some from the leading edge of the wings, and now that is sitting in there nice and flush. We've got a bit of a gap here. That could be my doing from sanding the back. That is really, really nice. It's going to need a bit of work here. You can see we got a bit of something going on, but other than that, really, really good. So I'm just going to put some cement there and let that capillary around. I'll put some there and let that capillary around. Maybe a little drop there and a little drop there. And then I'm not going to touch it because I don't want any oozage. So there we are. very nice. And what we'll do, we'll put some black super glue in there and then we'll rescribe it. So I want to get some in there if I can. Just try and close that gap up a touch at the back. Here we are. Makes a more consistent looking panel line then. Okay, so I'll do the same with this one and then we'll look at those two. Alright, so remarkably this side isn't anything like as good. When this one goes in, you can probably see that it's sitting well low at the back. Okay, it's well recessed into the wing there. Okay, so it needs to be packed up. And we've also got a gap here, big enough to get my knife into. It's huge. So we've got some work to do here. So that strip I cut, as I mentioned earlier, the strip I cut for the ribbing on the elevators, I've got a piece here and I've cut it to length. So I'm going to run some extra thin down there and I'm going to put this into there as a piece of packing, and then when I fit this down on top, it should raise it up. And it has, it's raised it up too much. That's absolutely fine. As you can see now, we've got if I pull this back to its correct position, we've got a great big gap there. So we'll have to deal with that. That's no problem. As I say, there's always an issue on Lancasters. And it's fairly flush, it just needs to go down a tad. So what I'm going to do is very gently put the aircraft down. I'm going to use my knife and I'm going to just scrape a tiny bit of plastic from there to allow it to go down slightly. And this is what I'm talking about, taking your models that step further. Rather than putting up with horrible gaps and steps and everything, let's just have it all looking nice. Okay, so it's still slightly proud. So I'm going to scrape a bit more off. I'll use this knife this time, I think it's better for scraping. Oops, be careful not to cut yourself like I nearly did then. The other thing you could do, of course, is use a file. And just come in with a file and remove some plastic like that. And we'll try that in there. And there we go, we've got it nice and flush. Oh, it's still slightly proud, but I don't mind sanding it down a bit to make it level. Which is, because I'm going to get rid of those rivets anyway, they're stupid. So yeah, so that's good like that. Right, so I am going to a drop of cement there and a drop of cement there just to hold it in place. And I'd rather deal with a gap at the front than at the back. So I'm just going to push that back and down and across. And then drop of cement in there. Drop of cement in there. Let that capillary around do its thing. Give it a very another slight nudge. Don't want any glue oozing out, be very careful here. We just want to try and get a nice continuation of that panel line. And there we are. So as you can see, we've got some work to do here. But that's all good, I can show you that and you can learn something from that. So we'll carry on now with these inners. I haven't test fitted these, this is the first time I've tried them. And again, that one is sitting slightly low, so I'm going to pack that one up. What we'll do is try the other one. The other one might be slightly thicker, so it might fit better. Even though they're both the same part number, they're obviously separately moulded parts, so one might be slightly different than the other. And no, they're exactly the same, it's got the same amount of step. So I'm going to do the same on that one and pack it up. We've got a much nicer fit on the front edge than we have on those. And that one there is going to go in. Again, that one is, it's a lot better, that one actually. that one needs packing out. That one I don't think does need any packing. But just get away with a very light sanding on that one, I think. Just trying to see if, yeah, it does have a step. I'd rather have it slightly high and sand it down than have it low and have to sand the wing. I think we'll take those off, he says. I think we'll take them off, just like so. And we'll get a couple of strips and pack them out at the, oh, that's a shame. There is nowhere to pack at the back. So what we're going to have to do is pack the sides. So what we need is four small pieces. Like so. That will just flew across the room. Okay, and what we'll do is just put a drop of extra thin in there and a drop in there. And then we'll put our strip in. Oh, I've dropped it. We'll put our strip in there. That should be enough. To lift it. If the strip would only go in the right way around, it wants to sit on its side. There we go, and that should be enough. There we go. Look at that, it's a beautiful fit now. It's nice around the front as well. That's really nice. So what we'll do is we'll put a drop of cement in there. We'll put a drop in there, let that run around and do its thing. Drop in each corner. There we go. And there we are. I think I'll put a little drop there so it runs around the front as well. And that is a perfect fit. Again, we've got a gap under there. May be able to close that up slightly, but it's definitely going to need a little bit of filling work, which I'll show you anyway. So I'll do the same on that side, pack that exactly the same, and then let it dry, I guess, and then we'll have a look at something else. Right, so that's on, and they're all sort of, well, they're on, should I say, not that's on. They're all sort of settling down. I've discovered that if you want to move these around, you can actually get to them in here by going into the wheel bay. You can push them up and manipulate them and stuff. So I've been doing that, and I'm trying to get them so they're all sort of sitting flush or slightly proud, so I don't have to sand the wing. But they had actually started to pull down a touch, so be a little bit careful of that. So there we are, they're on. I'm not worried about gaps or anything because that can all be filled. I just want to get the actual profile here right. I'm not really even worried about the top of the engine because that can be sanded out and filled and this, that and the other. It's getting this profile here correct is the main thing, and having them slightly proud or exactly flush. We don't really want them sud flush because then we'll have to build them up, or we'll have to sand the wing to get them to blend. Or if you're not worried about having them looking, you know, like step panels, then just leave them as they are. But I want it all to be nice and smooth. It's got to look like a brand new bird. So looking in the instructions, they're asking us here to start on the flaps. They're talking here about, well, they're not talking about anything. They're showing us through the means of drawing, fitting the undercarriage doors in here. So looking at that, I'd want to paint the inside of them first anyway, but they've got some horrible ejector pin marks. There's 3 in each. But luckily they're sort of pretty much raised, which is good, which means we can sand and scrape. So all I'm doing, I'm leaving it in the sprue to protect these little arms, the little actuator arms. I'm just leaving them in the sprue and just gently coming in with a curved blade and just scraping them until they're all but gone. And then we can come in afterwards with a sanding stick and get in there and smooth them out. Perhaps give them a very light coat of paint the next time we're painting something, and then that can be like a guide coat for sanding them flat. So there we are, that's looking dandy. There we go. There we are, and then we can just come in. I've got a floory skiddy stick here, which you could just come in there and get in there and sand them. Got to be careful what you use because this plastic is very soft. If you use anything too coarse, you just go tearing it up. But sort of, you know, just don't apply any pressure, and we should be able to sort of blend them out. We can use a bit of magic marker because everything's going to be painted black anyway, so if the black ink remains, then that's not a problem. So we just go in there and make some marks around where they were. You can see we've got one there which is slightly undercut, which is a shame, which means we'll have to fill it. But, it's much easier with ejector pin marks if you can just get away with sanding them. But there's one there that's definitely going to need filling, so we can just come along and just gently sand away until all the ink disappears. And there we go. In fact, I haven't done that one correctly, have I? Because I've not put ink over where the ejector pin mark was. Be careful not to catch these arms like I just did then. So you just sand away, and sort of, if they're not perfect, it doesn't really matter because you're not really going to see a lot in there anyway. Obviously it's all black. Some people will tell you the undercarriage bays are green, they're not, they're black on wartime Lancasters. Even the border models 1/32 scale kit would have you paint the gear bays green. I was told, I don't know if I've mentioned this before, but I was told by someone that one of the evasive actions to get out of the spotlights was to slow down very, very fast. And what they used to do was drop the flaps, open the bomb bay, and open the gear doors and let the undercarriage down to maximise the drag. And that was why everything was black. Whether that's true or not, I do not know. But there are so many stories surrounding Lancasters that have come from, you know, some bloke down the pub. It's always worth verifying. If you are, if you are interested in accuracy and stuff, it's always worth verifying. But for years I believed that the railings in the nose were never painted yellow. And then somebody showed me a photograph. Mr. Richard Alexander showed me a photograph in his book, and you can see that clearly in the factory the railings are yellow, and indeed the interior area is green, not black, which is a real point of argument. So anyway, I'm going to carry on and get these sanded out, and then when that's done I'll get them painted black, and we'll come back and sort of put them on, I think. Okay, so we've got those all sanded out. We've got that one there filled, you can see, with some black super glue, and all those ejector pin marks are sanded out, so they're ready now for some black paint. And before we do that, we're going to do some other work on the model, because I don't want to go fit in these yet, because they're going to be hanging down here. We're going to be getting in here and sanding. They're probably going to get broken off, so I don't really know what to do. We've got to get the flaps done as well. We shall see. But this has been on here now for a good sort of 12 hours, so it's all nice and solid. So looking at these gaps in the engines, we're going to be going around with some Mr. Surfacer after we've done some sanding. But here we've got a little step. We've got a little tiny step there, so there'll be a bit of sanding to do there. Here you can see we've got a little gap, and here we've got quite a large gap there. So better to have the gap there than up there, easier to work with. So what we're going to do now is repair that gap. So I've got some slithers of plastic card. This is 10 thou thick plastic card, and I'm just going to literally slot that into that gap like that. You can see that's just going to sit there in that gap, and then I can take a little drop of extra thin and just glue that in there. Okay, just to make sure we've got that gap filled. and then on this side it's the same, but not as big of an issue. So again, we can put this piece of scrap plastic card in there. In fact, we'll put it on an angle like that. There we go. Drop of extra thin into there, and that is that dealt with. Okay. So we can wait for that to dry for a few minutes and then trim that off. What I'm going to do here with these, because there's quite a step there, I've got some black super glue, and I'm just going to literally put this black super glue in. I haven't shaken it enough, have I? This is actually the MIG Ammo black super glue I'm using here. I'm just using it up because it's suitable as a filler. There we go. So that's done like that, and then we can, once that's dry, we'll be able to sand that back. I'm not going to put any super glue up here because I want to leave those panel gaps as they are. What we'll do is, after it's all sanded, we're going to mist a surfacer and then a cotton bud, just like we did on the wing roots, and that will give us the panel line back. So here we'll have to sand and scribe, here we'll have to sand and scribe. So what I'm going to do here now is, before I trim these off, I'm just going to put some super glue down into that corner. I'm using black super glue. You don't have to, you can use ordinary clear. When you use it as a filler, it doesn't really matter what you use, to be honest. But obviously if it's a filler, the thicker the better. The really thin stuff isn't much good as a filler because it just capillaries into the joint and disappears. So that can go into that joint. You can see that's capillarying in there. So that's pretty cool. So we'll get that around there, and then we can leave all of these to dry. Now, if you don't want to go to all this fuss, you don't have to. Just put some filler in there and sand it out or whatever. You might find that your engines fit better than mine if you haven't done as much sanding as I've done. But basically, you will get differences. As I say, this is an issue with every single Lancaster model on the market, I believe. So there we go. So we can leave those to dry, and then we'll be able to do some sanding and get it all nice and flush and smooth and have it looking all lovely. As I say, we're not going to be doing any weathering or washes on this because of the heavy panel lines, so I really want everything to just be nice off the block. So we can leave that to dry, and then we can think about doing something else. But basically, these, getting these engines sanded and blended in and everything is the absolute priority at the moment. Once we've got that done, then we can start looking at putting details on. But as you can see, as I mentioned just now, if I'd had these exhausts on here, sanding up around there would have been a lot more difficult than it's going to be, especially on these outboard engines because we've got a tighter radius to go around. So there we are. Right, I will be back in seconds for you. Probably a day for me. Okay, we're back. So as you can see, I've put a very thin layer of black paint over these, and you may also be able to see that I've actually done this side. I've done the port engines. So as you can see, we've got the scribe line on there on the back of the engine cover going across. We've got this all sanded in and blended in, and I've put this black primer on there just as a guide coat, just to see where we are. So what I can do now is take this 400 grit sanding stick and just very lightly sand over the surface, and straight away we can see that that panel there in that corner is still slightly high. So what we can do is just very, very gently sand. We can see all this here is good because we're sanding the wing and we're sanding the panel, so that's good. But we can see that here we have a step, and that step I did not feel earlier on. So what I'm going to do is, with this flat stick, is just continue to sand. Just continue to sand until we get the whole thing all nice and flush. And that is exactly what the black paint is there for. It's called a guide coat. It's just a very thin coat, just to show us. Now you can see we've got this area here where this back edge of this panel is slightly radiused. We're not going to do anything about that. We're just going to leave that as it is. And then I've got a sanding sponge. I'm just going to come in here and just make sure we don't have any obviously raised areas. But be careful not to get away those cable cutters, or sand away those cable cutters, should I say. We can see here that sanding this, we can see we've got our nice tight scribed line in there, which is all looking good. You can see I've got a black line here. You can see that there, and that's obviously a low spot. So what we're going to do is just make sure we come in with our stick and get that away, just like so. And there we are. So that's that one all good. We know we're good there. We've also got a bit of a black line there, so I'm not sure what that's all about. I'm just going to make sure I can take that away with the stick, and then come in with a sponge just to remove any little flat areas that are there. So you get the idea. And then the same here, bearing in mind the dihedral starts here, so be careful not to be fooled by that. But we can see that I'm sanding away here, and you can see that the panel and the surrounding wing are all nice and flush. Yeah, you can see that there, lovely. And then with the sponge, just check we don't have any obvious, I'm looking for light grey areas to pop up, and that will show us that we've got areas that are obviously high spots or low spots or whatever. And again, we can come over the top of the engine with this one. We can see that's all looking good. So again, we can come with the sponge over the top of there. So that's how we finish it off, and we know that it's all good. Now, that line there, I'm not going to worry about too much because I can't feel it. I'm not exactly sure what it is. It's like a scratch or something. Maybe it's a scratch from where I was scribing. But there we go, it's gone now anyway. I can feel there's still a line there, so I can come along with my scribing tool and pick up in that groove and just make sure that we haven't completely sanded it away. It's always a nightmare with Airfix plastic because it's so soft, or the older Airfix plastic should I say, and the trouble is if you slip with the scriber it generally makes a mark, and it's a complete and utter pain. So hopefully that will be good to go. We'll get another ghost cutter primer on there and see how it looks. We'll use grey primer to get that sorted. Now on this side, all I've done is clipped away the excess plastic card. I've done nothing else, so I can show you basically what I'm going to do. You can see on this one here we've still got the rivets there, so we can come in and sand away, and we can see that straight away this panel, which is what we wanted, if you remember, we wanted that panel to be higher. So there we go, that's all looking good. So we can just keep sanding that, and then here we have this plastic carding which we're going to have to get rid of, along with the raised forward edge of that panel. And we need to be careful not to end up putting a sort of square groove in the wing root there. We can see we have got quite a step. So I'm going to use this little skinny sander. I'm using a Flory skinny stick. You can get the ones from UMP that are just as good. They're not as skinny, but they are just as good. What I'm trying to do here is just blend this out and blend this area of the wing into the top of the engine, which is why you'll see me sort of sanding across and not just going like this. I'm sort of going like that. Okay. Just keep going like that until we blend it out. So I'm not going to keep the camera on and show you me just doing loads and loads of sanding, because that's just going to be so boring to watch. It's untrue. But all I'm going to do is basically keep sanding this area here, being careful not to sand away those cable cutters. You can see now why I wanted to leave those exhausts off. If I come with this one, you can see exactly why I wanted to leave those exhausts off. Alright, so I'm going to carry on sanding, get this blended out, and then we'll get a coat of grey primer on there and see how it looks. So all sanded out. So when it comes to scribing these lines, because these engine top covers are separate pieces, we're just going to put these. In fact, I need to check my references. Are they separate pieces, or do they join here? Is that one piece there, or is there actually a line there? I need to go and check my references, don't I? There is a line there. How stupid of me. So basically, so we've got our piece of, this is the scribing guide tape, and what we're doing is just, it's easier to do it if you can when it's down on the bench, and just scrape in a line like so. We're just basically scratching the surface just to make a mark so we can see that we've got a line there. And then what we'll do is remove the tape. Now I know that I wandered off a couple of times, so it may well be that we have a scratched line here. But because the plastic is so soft, it marks easily, but it also sands out easily. So we can feel we've got a line there, but obviously we'll give that a coat of grey primer and we'll give it a check. So we're just going to do the same on this one here. So we're going to line up the tape with the line that's already there going down the side of the engine. Okay, so we can line that up. Now the trouble is, the slightest hint of dust, and this stuff won't stick because it'll just pick up the dust. So we can put that there and hold it in place, and then wrap this side over and hold it in place, and then using our scribing tool just scratch in the line that we want to see. I'm afraid this scriber has seen better days. It needs sharpening. It's tearing the plastic rather than cutting it. So we'll have a line there now. We can feel that line there. And just gently go over with a sponge. And then what I'll do is give those little light coat of primer, and we'll see how they look. There we go. Another day has gone by, and you can see we've got the grey primer on. And as you can see, all our seams are looking lovely. And as I've said many times before in many other videos, the grey primer is what you want to do your seam check in. So as you can see, it shows up your lines. It will show up any bulges, any dodgy bits of filler or whatever. And there we go. So that's that done. I just need to do a bit more sanding around there, because I can see where that primer is. I can see I've got a bit of a flat spot on that leading edge. So I'm going to have to get in there with one of my little narrow PE sanders, and I'll just get in there and just try and re-establish some kind of radius on there to get rid of that flat spot, just like so. So there we are. The other thing I've done, I've gone down the spine. I'll go underneath as well, and here we can see underneath looks absolutely fine. There's a bit of a mark there. We can see that's going to have to be dealt with. But on the top, if you remember, I said about, never rush to get your fuselage painted and everything, because it's all going to, you get these ghost seams reappear. And as you can see here, I don't know if you can make it out, but I can see part of the seam there reappeared. There's something here which has reappeared. And as you can see, these lines over the top, that one's okay. But these two here, where I've scribed them, they look a bit of a mess. And we can also see that circle has come back. So what we'll do is we'll get some more super glue in there and let that go off and sand it, and then we'll do another quick seam check before we do any final painting or anything, probably in about a week's time. A week for me, but probably a month for you. So there we go. So I'm going to go on and get that done. In fact, here it looks like that may be a little bulge there. So I've got a 600 grit stick, and if I'm sanding, you can see that we're actually it's not a it's actually a raised area of glue, a raised area of super glue. So that's it. This is one of the problems with this older Airfix plastic. It's so soft that it's very, very difficult to deal with seams and stuff, because anything you use is going to be harder than this plastic. So when you sand it, it will be less resistant to sanding down than the plastic. So you end up kind of sanding over it. So that's why I always say about avoiding sponges if you can. We can see, I'm just going over this gently, and you can see that we do have a low spot on the side of that fuselage there, because it's only sanding the left hand side and not the right. This is the beauty of using a good hard stick rather than a sponge. So we've got some more work to do here, clearly. If you remember, I actually broke this fuselage, didn't I, when I was forcing those tail panes in, which was a schoolboy error. As you can see, it's blending out, but you can see that it's higher on this side than it is on that side. There we go. There we are. So another good thing with this primer, you can see here we're sanding. You've got the grey plastic here, the grey plastic here, but there we've got primer, which means that disc is sitting slightly higher than the actual fuselage, so we'll smooth that out. It doesn't really matter because there would be a plate there anyway, but the thing is the plate wasn't circular. It was kind of circular there, but with two flats on it either side. So I think I've shown you before. So you know, we don't really want any marks of a full circle there. Rather, in this scale, I'd rather have nothing there at all, really, to be honest. We can see there that, you know, while we're sanding, it's showing us what we've actually got. Okay, we could do the same here. We've got some marks in here which we can take away. Again, we may get away with just sanding that because it may have just been a raised area. So we shall see. But anyway, I'm going to call it a day for this one. We've got all our undercarriage done, we've got our engines faired in and everything. So hopefully you've enjoyed that. We're not going to worry too much about this here because that's going to have a panel going in. And there we are. It's all looking good. It's all looking very good, to be honest. So I'm not sure if we need anything else there. We'll probably just give it another coat of primer and see how it looks. I also want to get sharp into that corner there on that raised panel. So I'm going to put the sanding stick there, put my finger there, and then use my finger as a guide. And then I can push the sanding stick into my finger and end up with a clean edge on there. So there we go. We'll do the same on the other side. Just like so. there we are, job done. So, right, I will see you all for part 11, and in the meantime I think I'll give that another ghost coat, another ghost coat, and then we'll see how it all looks, and have another look around these engines as well, make sure they're all good. So thank you for watching. I will see you all soon for part 11, and we are really starting to get to the end now. Obviously I'm waiting for the plastic strip to come so I can do the elevators, and then once we've got all this main work done, we'll get the fins on, the rudders, and of course next I guess we could start looking at these fairings for the actual bomb itself. Get those all fitted nicely, see how they go. Shame I've got this undercarriage in the way, but I also need to get these greeblies on the engine. But hopefully you've learnt something from this, as you know, from the last couple of videos. Don't put these greeblies on, leave everything as long as you can, and then when it comes to it you can fit it on then. So I think one other thing I might do is just get one of the props built up so I can check that this is all nice with the spinner. Then if we have like the top edge sticking up a bit, I can always blend that out before we start looking at paint. So I'll probably get one of those built up as well. We'll see how that looks. So thank you for watching. I will see you all soon for part 11, and bye for now.